everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Nicole and this is Dusty Book Sniffers, and today we're here to talk about the biggest book on the Booker Prize for Longlist 2025. So let's get started. Everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for taking some time out of your day and spending it with me while I prattle on about the biggest book on the list this year. That book is called The Loneliness of Sonia and Sunny. I had to think about what I was going to say then because I keep going to say the Sunny and Cher book. I have done since this has landed on the list, and I knew I was going to be reading it. But it's not. It's The Loneliness of Sonia and Sunny by Kiran Desai. Now, this one comes in at 688 pages. It's a bit of a chunkster of a book, but it is well worth the read. Don't let that put you off. All right, so the let me just bring it up on Goodreads. This is essentially, it's a little bit of historical fiction along with it is historical fiction because we've got events that happened in our history actually mentioned in this book. So it's historical fiction. It's set in both the US and in India, and it's classed as a romance contemporary literary fiction. So that's what we've got on it. As I said, it comes in at 688 pages. So it's, as I said, a little bit of a chunkster, but it covers so many different themes in this book. So don't let it put you off because we do have a lot to cover that this book covers. So it does have some strong themes in it. It asks about, loneliness, it's cultural identity, family and expectations, and all that sort of thing is in here as well. And you've got the contrasting, Western versus Eastern and all that sort of stuff as well. We've got a little bit of touching on a little bit of minorities and all that sort of stuff, and looking at the way things work in the United States and how things work back in India, and some of those conflictions that happen from cultures that the reason they say culture shock, because those conflictions and everything. Not being very succinct with my review right now, but there is a lot in here. So I've got some notes here that I'm going to refer to because there was a lot, as I said. So basically, we've got Sonia, who is a college student in Vermont. She's homesick, she's vulnerable, and she falls into a very complicated relationship earlier in the book. On the flip side, we've got Sunny. These two are obviously the main characters because the book is named after them. He's a journalist in Brooklyn. He's navigating cultural confusion and romantic detachment. And meanwhile, we've got the family back in India. Play matchmakers, right? So we've got that whole narrative around matchmaking and also arranged marriages, the good, the bad, and all that sort of stuff. We've got Sonia, who's making some questionable choices, and her being so homesick and everything like that, that she's made this choice, and that's going to pretty much affect most of her life. And then we've got Sunny, who is feeling so detached from his culture as well as his American girlfriend, and so he's just feeling very lost, and hence where the loneliness sort of comes in as well. As I said, the families back in India try to arrange a meeting. It doesn't all go to plan, and so then we've got this whole narrative around these two people and the choices that they've made and all that sort of stuff. But it does boast the question about loneliness and despite being surrounded by people, still feeling that immense loneliness. It covers it, stuff like that. Also, we've got cultural identity in this one as well. Not fully living between India and also America, and how that can create tensions and all that sort of stuff. So and also there was some things in the book that the author said, where it's almost like the parents are sending their children off into the Western world to learn how to become Western and get a better life, but in actual fact the children are wanting to get back to their culture. So they're almost learning their existence and their cultural identity in reverse, like they've gone into the United States, which is what is being used in this narrative, only to be wanting to go back to their original place in the world and learn about that culture, and they're almost learning it in reverse. And then there's also a narrative in this book about how diversity and all that sort of stuff in the workplace and everything, and the struggle that Sunny was having with identifying as a minority when his people are in the over a billion, and so that question was sort of asked, and it was explored in some ways, and it was quite like when I read that, I'm like, that is such a pivotal question, because how do you claim, to be a minority when your people are over a billion? How do you rationalize that in your mind? Yes, you're a minority in the United States, but not in your home country. So how do you make peace with that? And so that was quite an interesting question. And as that came up, I put the book down, and I'm just like, wow, that is really that is a good question. Like, that is an absolute. Do I have the answers? No, I don't. But it was a very compelling question for me. Like, it made me just stop and think, and like, that would be hard. How do you rationalize that in your own mind? And I'm open to discussion. Be nice though in the comments for that. So and then you've got the family and the familiar expectations and all that sort of stuff around arranged marriages and parental pressure and what all comes with that, and how kids want to push against that, but at the same time they're craving that cultural identity, and so there was a lot of that in there as well. So, and also, where you've got parents clashing with their kids, this is what they expect from you and they want this from you, but that's not what you want. And there's all of that sort of stuff that comes into it as well. The characters are a little bit complex. She's like Sonia is, she is complex. She's intelligent, but she's also vulnerable at the same time, emotionally vulnerable. She's trying to find her place in the world, and basically she is craving to be back home in India, and so much so that, as I said, she makes some questionable judgments, and she does go back home, which is not a spoiler. Over a 600-page book, there's a lot more in this, but and then the ramifications from that as well. And then as I said, we've got Sonny, who's feeling very detached from everything, his culture, living in the United States. He's trying to make sense of everything. He's got a longing to be back in India, not so much back in India, but to identify with his culture on a little bit of a deeper level, I feel. And there's lots of, then we've also got the parents. So we've got Sonia's papa, who is estranged from his wife. They're not divorced, but they're living in separate dwellings, and and he is quite vulnerable himself, where his wife is quite she's lonely as well, like in some circumstances, like you feel like she's also feeling this loneliness as well, but at the same time she's quite strong. And yeah, so after Sonia left, their marriage sort of fell apart. So it's coming back to that, they were just staying together because of the children, and so we've got the ramifications from that, and so they're trying to deal with that in the background as well. And Sonia's trying to navigate that herself as well, which is also adding to her loneliness, because she doesn't really have many friends to talk to and all that sort of stuff, even though there's lots of people around her and whatnot. And then we've got Sunny's mother, and she is trying to arrange to end up in the United States as well. She has a little bit of a seedy underbelly sort of tone to her. There is some in certain aspects of it, there is some shady stuff happening with her character and what's happening in India. So I won't go any further, I'll just leave it at that. And then Sunny's trying to navigate that as well, so there's also that. So what worked for me is that it was really immersive writing style. It was deep. It was also, for me, I found it was a little bit of a fresh take on immigration. It wasn't just them going there and then you're living their day-to-day life. We've got that push and pull between the two cultures as well. So there was a lot of that in there. And you do get that in other books as well, but I felt like that this one was a little bit, I don't know, I just felt like it was a bit of a fresh take on it for me. I don't know, maybe I was pulling something out of it that no one else is going to see. I don't know, but that's how I felt at the time. It's definitely got some melodrama in it with the families and all that sort of stuff, but it's emotional at its core. It's very emotional and nuanced in looking at the modern Indian identity essentially. So I felt like it's I feel like that whole section there where they're sending them off to the United States to make a better life for them for themselves, yet these children are and when I say children, they're not children really, they're young adults, they're in their 20s, you know, and this is going over a period of time as well. In fact, it's going over several years, I think it is. I didn't really pay attention to that because I was just so absorbed in the story and the narrative. So for me, those things worked, and I really like that about this book. And if you've been around for a while, you know I love a good chunky book, and I like being in a book for a long time, and I like it when a author really gets the characters to grow and learn, and you're learning along with them, and they're growing, and you're seeing the changes that are coming from it, and you know the epiphanies that they have and all that sort of stuff. I love that sort of thing. So of course I'm going to enjoy a book that's got all that for me. So what's not probably going to work for a lot of people, I didn't really have anything that didn't work for me. I felt like it was pretty good overall for me. But what's probably not going to work for some people would be that it's long. It's 688 pages. It's not plot driven. It's definitely character driven. The pacing is a little bit on the slowish side. It's very reflective as well. And some of the characters do feel a little bit emotionally distant. I felt like we probably could have had a little bit more from Sonia's mother and a few other characters throughout the book. But the main one for me was probably Sonia's mother. We did get a little bit from her, but not a great deal. They are probably the things that aren't going to work for a lot of people. But overall, I think you're doing yourself a disservice by not picking this book up. So the major themes in this are, again, loneliness, identity, love, family. And it just basically... I would recommend this to people that love literary fiction, like a long book, obviously, people that like to explore bicultural and immigration identity, and as I said, like reading about slow and emotional character studies, essentially. That I would say, if you like that sort of thing, you're going to enjoy it. If you don't, I still think that you might enjoy it because it's just giving, I feel like it's a little bit of a different take on things. You often don't, like anything to do with immigration stories, you do get that, you know, they miss their home and all that sort of stuff, but you don't get that deep dive into it. It's usually just surface level, whereas this is a really, like, it sort of feels like it's deep. It's diving into it a little bit more intensely, and really looking at, you know, how Sonny's feeling and how Sonia's feeling, and even how the parents are feeling as well about their children being so far away from them and everything. So I feel like that, and because, you know, normally you've got a family and they go to a new country and then you're getting that story there, whereas this one is a split family in two different places, and so you're getting that push and pull, and I felt that was really, really well done in this book. Overall, I have given this a 4-star rating because it was long. Even though I love that, sometimes when it's slow, it can drag my rating down a little bit because I've spent way too much time there. So I'm a little bit of a contradiction when it comes to my long books in that aspect. But 4 stars, solid 4 stars. And that could change as I think about it a bit more, because I've literally just finished it today, early this morning. Well, not so early, 9:30 this morning. And I've sat on it for a little while, and I had notes that I'd taken and all that sort of stuff. So I've collated all them. And I feel like it's definitely a 4-star. Like, it's got the thought-provoking things there. It's got all the strong themes that I was looking for in this book and expecting from this book. There was nothing that didn't appear in this book, in my opinion. It gave me all the expectations I had for it. It hit all of those. So that's why it's a 4-star rating for me. But that's all I've really got to say about it. I ended up being a little bit more succinct than what I started out. But anyway, have you read this book? If you have, is this something that you really like, that you like to just be in the world and read the big chunksters and all that sort of stuff? Start a conversation up down in the comments down below. And if you're not feeling chatty, leave me the hugging emoji for love and a heart down in the comments. As I said, let me know if you like the book. Just do a yay or nay. You don't need to go into spoiler territory. We can talk about it on sprints and stuff like that, I'm sure, and whatnot. But as I said, that is it from me today. I hope that you're having a lovely day wherever you are. And remember, keep turning those pages, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.